Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers. This team has only won one game this season. And that game was many weeks ago against the Las Vegas Raiders. Remember when they first benched Bryce Young and the national media was going crazy? They said the Panthers failed Bryce Young and they put in Andy Dalton. That's the only game that they have won this season. I want to talk about their defense, Bryce Young, Andy Dalton. I want to talk about everything, but let's talk about the defense first. Coach E, the man you see on your screen right now, this is the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. After this season, fire him. He should not be on this coaching staff ever again. I understand in the past he's a very good defensive coordinator. He went in this offseason and he switched the formation that this team is in. They went from being a 4-3. They're now a 3-4. They can't stop the run. They have the worst rushing defense in the NFL by a country mile. You may think it's the Dallas Cowboys, and Dallas Cowboys are down there. But when you look at the Panthers, they have allowed the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL this season. They've allowed the most rushing yards in the NFL this season. I can call up Emmitt Smith right now. Not prime Emmitt Smith, not Emmitt Smith from 5 years ago. Emmitt Smith today, he could come in and he could put over 100 rushing yards on this team. They are terrible up front, and I understand it's a lot of injuries. But at the same time, this coach went from what worked last season to this right here. And their rushing defense last season was a problem. They were 26 in rushing defense, but they weren't this bad. And part of the reason why the defense was so bad, you had Bryce Young going out there going 3 and out and throwing interceptions. But this team is going out there and they're giving up a lot of opening drive touchdowns. They're just running the football down their throat every single game. A couple of weeks ago when they went against the Atlanta Falcons, B. John Robinson had 95 rushing yards. Tyler Algier had over 100 rushing yards. That's ridiculous. Teams can legit just go out there and just run the football every single play. This is a definition of a soft football team and a soft defensive front. And I understand you don't have Derrick Brown, who is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. But even if he was on the field, do you think one player could go out there and just do much? Maybe they'll have the 30th ranked rushing defense. It will still be a problem. Coach E does not make adjustments after halftime. It's the same plays over and over again. He comes around with the same blitzes. If you want to have success against the Carolina Panthers, you run the football down their throat, you do some toss plays, you do motion plays off to the wide receiver, and then you work off of play action. And then you target the side that J.C. Horn is not on. That's what all teams do. And you saw yesterday with the Denver Broncos. They ran the football repeatedly. They had Bo Nix look like he was a second coming of John Elway. And even before that, they went against the Washington Commanders, a very young football team with a couple of veterans splashed in. They got outcoached. They got outmatched. They lost that game 40-7. 40-7. And Jaden Daniels was out majority of the game. He left the game early with a rib injury. Marcus Mariota, a man that used to be a starter for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Carolina Panthers defense in the past, when they went against the Falcons, they gave Marcus Mariota a lot of problems. He wasn't able to go out there and throw the football all over the place, and give the offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury a lot of credit because he took advantage of the porous defense of the Carolina Panthers. But this is the definition of getting out coached. They used motion. What did the Carolina Panthers defenders do? They didn't move at all. And now you have open holes in your defense, and they're just running the football down their throat. You also have Marcus Mariota able to operate from inside the pocket like he's Tom Brady. Marcus Mariota was 18 of 23. The last time he looked this good, he played for Oregon in college. He's never looked this good at the pro level. Yes, he made the playoffs with the Tennessee Titans. But that was it. The man was almost at the NFL a couple of years ago. 205 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Brian Robinson Jr. had 71 rushing yards on 12 carries. Then we look at what happened the week before that against the Chicago Bears. This is where things get very nice for Carolina Panther fans because they went out there and they traded DJ Moore and those first-round picks to this organization. And what is the first thing Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, does for the Chicago Bears? We're going to use DJ Moore against you. And that's what they did. They used your former franchise wide receiver who was amazing for the Panthers for many years. They used him against him. And what did Coach E do? You would think he would put J.C. Horn on him. No, he didn't. He put Michael Jackson on him, their number 2 cornerback. Why not put J.C. Horn on him? I mean, put J.C. Horn on him for the entire game. Look at what other defensive coordinators do in the NFL. Look at how the New York Jets use Ahmad Sauce Gardner. They match him up with the best wide receiver at all costs. If the receiver goes to the slot, they run zone coverage, and then they try to go out there and make adjustments. We haven't seen this season with Coach E, and I understand all of the injuries. I really do. I feel for him, but he deserves a lot of blame for this. And the general manager deserves blame for this as well, because you don't have the same defensive talent that you had last season, and I understand why. They did not just go out there and completely gut the defense. They wanted to go out there. They tried to pay Brian Burns. They did not want to pay him that much, so they moved off of him to the New York Giants for a 2nd and 5th round pick. Now, I'm going to give Morgan a lot of credit here. He came in, he traded him away. A couple of years ago, he could have traded him away for 2 first-round picks. That's what poverty franchises do. They don't move off of players fast enough. The Rams offered them 2 first-round picks. They said, no, we're going to hold on to them. That's on Scott Fitterer. You went out there, you traded Dante Jackson to the Steelers for Deontay Johnson, who may be getting a trade sooner than later. I have more to say about that when I talk about the offense. And then when I look at this defense in general, you have Jadeveon Clowney as your number 1 pass rusher. No wonder your pass rushing sucks. Jadeveon Clowney's never been a true number 1 pass rusher, even with the Houston Texans. The man played alongside one of the best defensive ends in this generation, and J.J. Watt, and he struggled to get over double-digit sacks, and he was in one-on-one coverage. Very good run stopper. And don't come to the comment section and saying, well, he had 9.5 sacks last season. That was a loaded Baltimore Ravens defense. Look at Geno Stone right now for the Bengals. He's not having the same success. Those guys benefited a lot because of that system. They are system players, and that's what Jadeveon Clowney is. You had so much going on with the Baltimore Ravens defense, teams just forgot about him. And the only reason that he got to 9.5 sacks is because he played a game against the Steelers to where pretty much all the Ravens starters were out. He was just trying to go out there and get incentives. I look at this secondary. You have J.C. Horn. Shout out to him. He shows up every single week in Xavier Woods. But the problem is with J.C. Horn, quarterbacks, they just know we're not going to throw his way. They have Michael Jackson on the other side. We're going to test him. And if he beats us and he makes us pay, guess what we're going to do? We're going to run the football because they can't stop the run. They brought in names like Ashawn Robinson. Solid run stopper. He's not a true pass rusher. You know how you wash him away? You run away from his side because no one else in this team can stop the run. Charles Harris, he's trying his best to stop the run, but he's not good enough. Trayvon Wallace, I feel bad for this kid. This is a rookie. And the interior linebacking spot, he's not supposed to be in this situation because Shaq Thompson was supposed to be here. And I feel for him as well. He's out for the rest of the season dealing with a torn Achilles. And just last season, his dumb teammate got upset and slammed a Saints player on his leg, and he fractured his leg. His days at the Carolina Panthers, they're very numbered. The linebacking core is no good. They're very young. There's something there with Trayvon Wallace. I think that he can be a solid starter moving forward. A guy like Josie Jewell, get rid of him. He stays injured, and he's not producing in this system. Get rid of him. And that's also another guy that this defensive coordinator wanted to bring in because when he was with the Denver Broncos, he was quote-unquote putting in work. He was not putting in any work over there either. Solid linebacker at best. That's it. You have a lot of guys in this Panther roster. They're just collecting checks. Now watch them go to a different team with better coaching and watch them be superstars. That's usually how the Carolina Panther way go. And I look at Dave Canales as well. Why did you keep this defensive coordinator and not bring in your own guy? And why did you let him go out there and just completely change the entire defense? This defensive coordinator has been terrible all season long. And this defense may be the worst defense in NFL history. They're on pace to give up the most points in NFL history. It got so bad to where Sean Payton was running trick plays and he was completing the trick plays. And you have guys like J.C. Horn getting upset with him. Don't get mad with Sean Payton. Play better. Now, I do understand it from his standpoint. You don't run up the score. You know, it's an unwritten rule. At the end of the day, you know the type of coach that Sean Payton is. He was in this division for many years with the New Orleans Saints. And if you are a Carolina Panther fan, you can't get upset either. Because I saw this team when they had Cam Newton and they went to the Super Bowl, they was running up the score. They were not running trick plays and being very disrespectful, but that's how bad this defense is. They look like a JV high school team defensively. They want to be treated like professionals. They're not professionals. Besides J.C. Horn and Xavier Woods, it's a bunch of trash on this field. And I also look at it from this standpoint as well. Even if these guys were fully healthy, the play calls make zero sense. You're blitzing when a team is on 3rd and 10? And you're leaving your cornerbacks in one-on-one situations, and you're not protecting the sticks. It's little things like that that are hurting the Carolina Panthers. There are no gap responsibilities. They're undisciplined defensively, and the coaching is terrible. And the roster isn't that great either. Maybe these players will be in a better situation somewhere else, but right now with the Carolina Panthers, they're not good. And when I look at the offense, man, ooh, I'm happy about this one. Bryce Young, all the Bryce Young defenders, he got the star for the Carolina Panthers yesterday against the Denver Broncos. How did he look? And I understand you didn't have Adam Thielen, you didn't have Deontay Johnson, but how did he look? This is a man that this team went out there, they traded first-round picks for and DJ Moore for, and look at him. They brought in a brand new offensive line. This is not a bad offensive line. Now, we saw Andy Dalton go out there and put up 20 points at least with the Panthers. This kid can rarely put up a touchdown a game. Yes, he had 2 passing touchdowns yesterday to 2 interceptions. The last touchdown came late in the fourth quarter off of garbage time. He's getting garbage time production. I'm telling you right now, with the Carolina Panthers, the best that he will ever be is a backup quarterback. Maybe he will go somewhere else and he will become a superstar, but this is a different situation because you'll have a lot of Carolina Panther fans saying, if we trade Bryce Young, look at Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold showed a lot of promise with the Carolina Panthers when Steve Wilks was the interim head coach. Don't forget that because they went out there and they won football games. The man won more football games than Bryce Young has. Sam Darnold went out there and looked better with that team than Bryce Young looks right now with this current team. Baker Mayfield had success with the Cleveland Browns. He was up and down, but he had successful seasons. At least they put some good on the film. When you look at these dumb interceptions that Bryce Young are throwing, that's not coaching. That's just a player being bad. You can't blame coaching on every single thing. Sometimes a player just doesn't work out in the NFL, and that's the case with Bryce Young. He's not working out. They picked the wrong quarterback. They should have went with CJ. So guess what they're going to do in this year's draft class? Because even if you do put in Andy Dalton, which they did, you're still going to lose football games because your defense is so bad. But at least with Andy Dalton, you can put up points. You can see what you have. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, Deontay Johnson more than likely will be traded. Because what's the point in keeping him? He's on a 1-year deal. He's a 1-year rental. And the same with Adam Thielen. Now, Adam Thielen has lesser value in the trade market than Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, smooth route runner, very good with yards after the catch. He's a okay 50-50 wide receiver. He's not going to go out there and just moss people in open field. And he's a smooth route runner. He would be amazing on a team like the San Francisco 49ers. He can go out there and help another young quarterback develop. And this is where I want to put a lot of blame on Bryce Young. This team would not be in this situation draft-wise and trade-wise if he played better because they made the moves to see if he was going to be the quarterback. They went out there and they did the best that they could. This notion that the Carolina Panthers, they didn't even try with Bryce Young. You sound stupid. They brought in Damian Lewis. They brought in Robert Hunt, 2 very good offensive linemen. That was the biggest problem with the Panthers last season offensively, besides the play calling from Frank Reich and Thomas Brown. They went out there, they brought in brand new offensive linemen. The offensive line looks better. Shout out to Icky at the left tackle position. He looks better this season. And you have Taylor Moton at the right tackle position. We saw Andy Dalton go out there last season when Bryce Young was a rookie against the Seattle Seahawks. He went out there and played a very good game. They still lost that football game. He got sacked 5 times, but I had a lot of concerns then for Bryce Young. And maybe they messed up by not sitting him down at least a couple of games in his rookie season. But at the end of the day, they brought in brand new offensive linemen. They brought in brand new weapons in Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson. They brought in a brand new offensive head coach with Dave Canales, who I have a lot to say about in the next couple of minutes. It's just not working out with Bryce Young. I'm not going to come on here and make jokes about the man. I'm not going to make jokes about anyone because these guys that go out there, they try their best. They spend time away from their family. They're working 24/7. I fully understand that it's not working out. But I'm tired of the notion, well, man, the Carolina Panthers, they ruined Bryce Young. No, they didn't. They didn't. They did the best they could. They did what other franchises do. Look at what the Rams did with Jared Goff in year number 2. Year number 1 was terrible underneath Jeff Fisher. They say, you know what? Bring in brand new offensive linemen. Bring in a young head coach in Sean McVay. Let's see what you got, kid. In year number 2, he took off. Year number 2, you have to know if he's going to be your guy or not in today's NFL. This is not the 80s. This is not the 90s. This is not the early 2000s to where you give a quarterback 4 to 5 years to figure it out. In today's league, we see quarterbacks go out there and develop at a fast rate. CJ, as a rookie in a terrible situation with the Houston Texans, made that team a playoff team. Nico Collins was not a top wide receiver until CJ touchdown. And when people try to say, well, man, CJ went to a better situation, no, the hell he didn't. The Houston Texans were historically terrible. He went there and he changed the culture. He changed the team. And you can't say that it's unfair to compare him to CJ because you can. He had a veteran wide receiver in Adam Thielen at least, who is getting wide open that Bryce Young just can't see down the field. And this is what I have to say about Dave Canales. He's a first-year head coach. If he was not a first-year head coach, I would say fire this man. But the Carolina Panthers have already fired a coach last season before the season even ended. They fired him at the halfway point in the season with Frank Reich. And they had Thomas Brown go out there and call offensive plays for the rest of the season. That was terrible. I'm not saying that Bryce Young got blessed his rookie season because he didn't. Terrible offensive line, terrible coaching. But Dave Canales, right now, you have this team playing soft. They come out flat every single week. They come out with the attitude, who are we going to get beat up by this week? The Carolina Panthers are the get-right team. That's what they are. If your team is struggling, if you're rooting for a different team in the NFL, I guarantee you this is a guaranteed win. Even if you put your second-string guys out there, because they can't stop anyone. And this offense is very predictable. You have a guy in Chuba Hubbard that's a very good running back who has been very good this season. Chuba Hubbard is averaging 5 yards a carry. He's 5th in rushing yards per game. 593 rushing yards on the season, 3 rushing touchdowns. But you still run your offense through Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. Why? Why? Run your offense through the run game. Run your offense through Chuba Hubbard. Run your offense through Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, by the way, is just an average running back at best, but at least you can give him some more snaps. He's averaging 4 yards a carry. Run the football behind his offensive line and work off of play action. And when I say run the football at least 25 to 30 times a game. Use time possession. He's a young head coach. This is his first year in the NFL as a head coach. I will give him some time. So I'm not going to say fire him after this season. And you can also say this as well. Let him go get his defensive coordinator. Let him go pick out his defensive coordinator. And let him go out there and pick his quarterback. You may be saying, why would the Panthers draft a quarterback in this year's draft class? Because if you don't have a quarterback in today's league, you don't have anything. And the Carolina Panthers, if you're a fan, you've seen this up close and personal. Look at all the years of the Atlanta Falcons when they traded Matt Ryan away. They had weapons, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. They had Desmond Ridder on the field. They didn't go anywhere. They had Marcus Mariota on the field. They didn't go anywhere. It's easier to go out there and bring in more defensive talent through free agency than it is to bring in a quarterback. Quarterbacks rarely hit free agency. It's rare to see quarterbacks, even like Kirk Cousins, to hit free agency. Because even a solid quarterback can get a big money deal in today's NFL. You have to get that position nailed down. And that's the one position that can change your entire team. Look at the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels. The kid comes over as a rookie. Look at him right now. Look at CJ with the Houston Texans. Historically terrible. They traded away Deshaun Watson. They had Davis Mills go out there. He was starting games for them. They didn't look good. They bring in CJ. They're a playoff caliber team. And I'm not saying if you go out there and you bring in a quarterback, you're just a quarterback away, because their defense is terrible. They need to go out there and bring in some solid defensive pieces and that fits an actual scheme. And go back to the old scheme that you were running for these players. And you get healthier on that side of the football. And Dave Canales has to do a better job of calling plays as well. But it seems like it's too much and it's too soon for him to be a head coach, because he went from being an offensive play caller with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season. Part of the reason to why he got this job is because of the work he did with Baker Mayfield and the work that he did with Russell Wilson. But when we look at Baker Mayfield, he already had some up and down seasons with the Cleveland Browns. He was on his way out the NFL. You can make that argument, but at the same time, that's a quarterback that made the NFL playoffs. And Russell Wilson, at a point in time, was a top quarterback in the NFL every single season before he went to the Denver Broncos. So he was already established as well, before and after Dave Canales. So when I look at a guy like Dave Canales, you have to go out there, pick your own quarterback, and figure things out. He didn't pick Bryce Young. He didn't. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for the Carolina Panthers. This was the worst case scenario. I did not think that their defense would be this bad. And I did not think that Bryce Young would be this horrible. They're just in a terrible situation all around. I never thought that I would see the day that Carolina Panther players would come out and call out the opposing coach because they're quote unquote running up the score and they're running double passes. And they can't stop it. They can't stop silly trick plays. What happens when teams go out there and they run actual plays? We're seeing it on a constant basis. Imagine if this team had to go against the Detroit Lions and they face the Kansas City Chiefs this season. I just feel bad at this point. I do. They face the New Orleans Saints next. Then they face the New York Giants in Germany. I don't know what the Germany fans did to deserve that game. The Giants and the Panthers. I'm sorry. I don't know what they did, what type of bad karma they did to deserve that football game. But they're still going to show up. They're still going to go. They face Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then the Philadelphia Eagles. Then they face the Dallas Cowboys, the Arizona Cardinals. They face Tampa Bay Buccaneers again. Then they close out against the Atlanta Falcons. I doubt that they'll win another game this season. They may only win one game this season. I would be shocked if they won 2 more games this season or even 1 more game this season. And if I'm Dave Canales, this is going to sound messed up. You embrace the tank. You start Bryce Young for the rest of this season because I know he's not going to win you any football games. You start him for the rest of the season. You go out there, you get the first overall pick, you select Cam Ward, and you move off of Bryce Young. And for the ones that are saying, what about Bryce Young? You trade him, you cut him, you get rid of him. Dump him away. You do what the Cardinals did with Josh Rosen. You move off of him fast. Because Bryce Young is hurting the feelings of every Carolina Panther fan that has to watch him play every single week. He's not the main reason that they're in this situation, but he's a huge reason to why they're in this situation because it didn't pan out. At least if he was able to go out there and have a solid sophomore season, you could say, you know what? We're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round. We're going to trade back. We're going to bring in some more defensive pieces. He can't even be solid. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Carolina Panthers and what should they do moving forward? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.